Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up part 1. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in the first half of October and kind of what I thought about them. So in the first half I read 6 books, so let's go ahead and start to talk about them. The first book that I read was An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is a brand new release. I'm sure you guys have heard about it, and I was really excited to read this book. Unfortunately, it kind of let me down a little bit. I ended up giving this like 3.5 stars-ish. I liked the writing. I thought it was very kind of whimsical, very descriptive, and you really felt like you were there. So this story follows a girl who lives in a town called Whimsy, and in this town, she is an artist and she is human and it borders on the Feylands. But the Fey aren't able to create anything, so they have to kind of depend on the humans to create anything of art, like clothing, music, anything that they can't make it themselves. They have to rely on the humans to make things like art. Well, our main character is an artist and she gets the Winter Prince as a client. But she makes a big mistake and she accidentally, well, not accidentally, she paints human sorrow into his eyes. And that's a big no-no in this world. So it kind of goes from there because he comes back not so happy and takes her on this kind of adventure through the Feylands. The writing really described the Feylands beautifully. It really felt like you were there. It was enjoyable. But for me, the characters were just lacking and I didn't feel for them. I'm a really big character person, and if I don't love the characters, it's hard for me to really love a book. And for me, when things happened in this book that were bad or good, I didn't really care because I didn't feel anything for the characters. And I'm not sure if that's just me or if it was the writing, I'm not sure. But if you like very descriptive world, very kind of just immersive world, definitely give this book a try, but for me it just wasn't a favorite. The next book I read was Thigh Highs by Katia Rose. This one is a new release. Well, it's coming out on October 26th, and I was given this by Katia. She asked if I'd like to review it, and I said of course, because I loved her first book, Latte Girl. This follows our main character who is in advertising school, and she is very excited to be here. She's very driven. She really wants a future in business. And they are given this project. It's like a big project, and it's going to get her a lot of job opportunities. But she is given a partner who is known as kind of like the flirty man whore of the class. And he's also really a good student, but he's known as a man whore, and she just does not want that because she's serious and she thinks he is not. And to top it off, their project topic is lingerie. So that just, I mean, it's a recipe for giggles, isn't it? So the story kind of follows them having to get together, having to work together on this project, and I loved it. The characters were really fantastic. It's definitely a hate to love story. This is like a new adult romance, and I thought it was done very well. It took a trope that we see a lot, hate to love, which is one of my favorite tropes, mind you, and I loved the way that it happened. It was natural. It wasn't too quick that you didn't believe it. It was very believable, and it was funny. You saw the background kind of come alive of these characters and why they are the way they are. If you're looking for a new like rom-com with a lot of heart and just a really unique storyline, definitely check this one out. It comes out on October 26th. The next book I read was A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught. This is a classic historical romance. Judith McNaught is kind of known for those in the kind of world of historical romances, and I was excited to read this. This follows a girl named Jennifer who is at a convent, and she gets taken captive by a group of men who are kind of led by a man called the Beast, and they are English and she is Scottish, and they kind of want to use her for ransom to get power over the Scottish lord, which is her father. And it just kind of follows the relationship developing and what happens when they are thrown together. And I liked this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The more I think about it, it might be more like a 3 out of 5. I liked the idea of it, but it was a little cliche, and I love the characters. That's what saved it for me. I liked Jennifer and I liked Royce, which is the Beast. But the only thing I didn't love is that, I mean, how many times have you read about someone being captured and held ransom? It was a little bit overdone for me, but I liked the way they developed the characters. I liked that they learned to kind of love each other. The other thing I didn't love was I felt like it was repeating itself. So they had a lot of like sexual tension. It kind of like they got together and then they were back to like having fights or hating each other or something went wrong. Now, I get that's a plot device, but it happened like 3 times in this book. And by like the second or third time, I'm like, okay, like you guys need to either get over it and get together or not. Like this back and forth business was just not working for me at all. So I did like it. I liked the characters. If you want a good historical romance, I mean, check it out. I know this one's really widely known. A lot of people love this book, but for me, it was just a little bit like it kept the same like events kept going over and over again and they weren't learning from them. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit. The next book I read was Haunting the Deep by Adriana Mather. This is the second book in the How to Hang a Witch kind of duology, I guess. It is not the same storyline as the first book, but it is the same cast of characters, so I definitely would recommend reading the first book first. I gave this one, I think it was 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was very close to a 5 out of 5 for me. This follows our main character, Sam, who is still kind of reeling from the events in the first book when all of a sudden she's having these dreams about the Titanic, and she's stuck on this Titanic kind of ghost ship. Then she starts getting these mysterious packages from this supposed like long lost relative, and every time she touches one she gets sucked into this Titanic ghost world. It was very creepy. It was very kind of different than the first one, but I liked that. And I liked that you got to see the same kind of coven of girls together and kind of learning together. Sam really had to embrace her magic in this one and come to terms with the fact that she did have magic and that she was gonna have to come, figure it out. She couldn't just ignore it like she kind of wanted to. I loved the Titanic aspect. It was creepy, it was sad, it was heartfelt. Anytime you talked about a sinking ship of 1,500 people, I mean, that's gonna be a recipe for a ghost story, and I really loved it. I thought it was a brilliant idea for a story, and if you're looking for a creepy read, definitely pick this up. The next book I read was How to Tame a Beast in 7 Days by Carolyn Sparks. This was so good. I think this was my favorite read this month so far. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So this is a fantasy romance, and it was so good. So it follows there's a mystical land called Earthaland. I'm not sure how you say it. And in this Earthaland, there's 5 different kingdoms. The 5th kingdom is an island. So in this kingdom, there's no magic supposed to happen. People with magic are called the Embraced, but you're not supposed to have them. And you're also not supposed to have twins. That's just bad. Because they are supposedly born under the twin moons, which is that 5th island. So our main character, Luciana, was brought to the Isle of Moon when she was an infant and was raised as an orphan because she was born a twin. She didn't know that though. She just is raised as an orphan from these nuns, and she has a very happy life. She has 5 kind of sisters that are raised with her that aren't real sisters, but they're just other girls at the convent. She's very happy. Then suddenly her father comes, who she didn't know she had, and tells her that she's actually a twin and her twin sister has passed away, but her twin sister was betrothed to a man called, again, the Beast. Why are they all called the Beast? But his real name is Leo, and that if she doesn't marry him in the place of her sister, he's going to be killed by this king who is just very corrupt and very evil. Well, her father is a good man, and he's not going to force her to do this, but Luciana's a very empathetic person, a very kind person, and she's like, I'm not going to let my father die. Let me go, and I'm going to try and take the place of my sister. Then we have our other character, which is Leo. Leo is embraced. He's also really high up in the army under the king, who he does not like, but it's his uncle. And no one touches him, even though he's embraced, because he's so deadly. What he does is he gets struck by lightning, and the lightning, he kind of absorbs it, and then he's able to kind of blast powerful things at people. So he also can't touch people, and that's very hard to go through life not being able to touch anyone. So it's about the 2 of them, about kind of, there's politics in this, there's a lot of magic, there's the 2 coming together. The love story in this was on point. I really, really enjoyed the love story between the 2 characters. It took tropes that we see a lot, but made them really unique. So if you're looking for a new like fantasy romance, definitely look no further. The last book that I read was The Rogue Not Taken by Sarah MacLean. This is my first Sarah MacLean book. I've never read it. It's historical romance, as you can tell from the cover. And this is about a girl named Sophie, who is one of the 5 daughters of this kind of scandalous family. And this book she wrote kind of inspired by TMZ. So it's like if there's historical TMZ. So a lot of it has to do with kind of people's perceptions of you and things like that. So in this story, Sophie is kind of known as the unfun one, and she's the youngest, the kind of just dull person in the family. But she comes to a party and she sees her oldest sister's husband in a very compromising position with someone who is not her sister. And she just kind of loses it. She's like, And she pushes him into a fish pond, calls him really terrible names, and is kind of scandalized in the papers. So she basically takes a run for it and gets in a carriage. She dresses up, steals clothes from a footman, and gets in this carriage to kind of escape. Well, the carriage is owned by someone, and it kind of goes from there. The carriage is owned by a man named King, who is a marquis. And he's hysterical. He's kind of known for like compromising women, and that's his reputation, is that he is just going around just kind of ruining relationships. But there's a lot more to him than that, of course. You kind of learned him. So these two, King and Sophie, go on this kind of chase across the country. She basically goes in his carriage thinking he's inside when really he's not. It's this whole kind of like exciting trail across England, and the story really goes from there. I loved this. Sophie was such a fun character. I loved her. She just wanted to be happy. She really didn't care about having a name. Her father kind of bought his title in England, so they weren't raised that way. From the time she was born until she was about 10, they lived in the country and she liked it. She didn't want to be a lady. She didn't want to have money. She just wanted to be free. And that's kind of what her story was, finding freedom and being herself. And then King had a very tragic past, and you kind of figure out why he is the way he is, and he may not be as much of a kind of terrible person as you first think he is. So it's just about the two of them. I loved it. It was very, very slow burn. It took a while to get there in their story, but it was worth it. Okay guys, those are all of the books that I read in October so far. Let me know if you've read any of those or if you're interested in any of them, and I would love to know down below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.